Say no for real.
Hey.
What's going on, Tima?
What's going on, man?
Nothing much. We just coming back, giving a little updates, giving a little information on the things that we've learned some more, we've kind of pushed forward through.
Yeah, I just want to talk to people about protection and security, I think, today.
That's what we really wanted to talk about based upon some of the unfortunate events that has happened in our lives the past month.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. We've had some unfortunate, unreal deaths that have kind of shook our lives to where the point that we're like security, protection, some type of directive for your family to know what needs to be done.
Right.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, because we want people to be, we're promoting, financial wealth, but with wealth comes a lot of different avenues, and it's just like some of the experiences that we've learned is that wealth is not just money. When you think of like just fiat, right? It's, there's a whole conglomerate of wealth that comes along with it, and there's ways that you have to protect and secure yourself so that things, unfortunate things do happen that, you're not cut out here with your...
Something as simple as death. Like if someone does not have the proper paperwork or the proper will or trust, life can be in shambles from what I've experienced, not personally, but from a personal family member, and the proper things were not laid out. So that basically made me say what we're doing, we have to continue to do. Because for us, well, for me who have children and for you about to have children, you don't want them, if something happens to you, they don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So that's why we're trying to be very, very specific on the directive of what you can do to protect your family, and so that if something happens, that income that you were used to having can be replaced with some type of insurance, trust, or anything.
Because it's so many times like people die and then, like it's always, pull together this money to help this person, all these, GoFundMe. And, while there's nothing wrong with that, but there's ways that you can set yourself up now so that way you're not trying to pull this money together.
Proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Assets and liabilities.
Yep.
Speak to it again.
Yeah.
So being proactive is we recently have completed our whole life policies. A lot of times we've heard in our community, whole life policy, like get a term, right? So we found that with whole life policies, the primary benefit that we like is the fact of the cash value that you can get from whole life policies. And it was something that we hadn't heard about until recently. And it's just like, why not have insurance that you can, one, protect yourself for your life, right? Protect your family. And then on top of that, you can pull some money off of it.
Absolutely, because it's the whole life. The difference between what we've learned, the difference between the whole life and the term. The term is for a specific event, basically for death.
Correct.
The whole life kind of helps you out to the process of your whole life, meaning you put money in, you'll be able to take some money out in case of anything. And so that's why we decided, let's look into whole life, because we can build cash. We'll have your policy will have cash for any emergencies. You can build it for the children. You can pass it down, whatever. When it comes to just the term, you get whatever you're supposed to get for what you put in once that person dies, and that's it.
That's it. There's no cash value you can pull from it. And as we journey on this whole like road to wealth and just the entire association with wealth, what we found out is that with whole life policies, you can also borrow from yourself for a fixed rate that most banks aren't giving you. So it's like you become your own bank, literally, and you can borrow from yourself. Now, granted, if you borrow from yourself, you do want to pay it back, right? We do promote paying yourself back. At the same time, when you pass on and your next of kin or your spouse, kids, whoever, they can get rewarded with what you've put into that policy, and with term, I don't think you're getting that.
No,
I haven't heard about it.
From what we've seen so far, we haven't really seen that.
No.
So that's why the decision for whole life it's for the whole life.
Growing up, I didn't really know much about life insurance. Like what I remember from our, when we were growing up was just like an insurance man coming to our grandmother's door and some paperwork being pulled out this special box or special cabinet, and they would go over certain things, and that was it. Yep. And, you know, like, naively, I just thought that life insurance was really just for your death and just for, like, funeral expenses, to be honest with you.
That's what I thought, too. I legitimately thought that it was kind of like a savings for when it's that time for a person to pass on.
Right.
They'll have these finances to take care of funeral and all of that.
Exactly.
I knew nothing about what we know now.
Nothing. I knew nothing that you could literally have a policy, earn rewards, basically a benefit outside of, like, okay, if you die, right? Like, because the main thing I thought about was life insurance, like, you die, you get money.
That's why we,
or your family gets
we
money.
were like, it's in our community, it's trained to, like, not talk about death or whatever, because it's like, that's what it is. You die. But when you hear insurance,
right,
that's what you think of.
Yes.
But you don't hear what we've learned. You don't hear whole life can help your whole entire life.
Right.
It can bring cash to your whole life.
Right.
When it comes to the term, it's just for that term. When you die, baby, that's all that money is for.
Yes.
Your death.
That's it.
Your whole life, legitimately, that money can be for your whole life.
Yes.
And that's
so
amazing.
Yeah, so, like, basically, like, today we're just coming to you to explain, like, how there's ways that you can, you know, in our last episode we talked about moving your money, smart money, right? And this is just another aspect of moving your money and how you can literally borrow from your insurance policy and use that cash that you can get from a whole life policy for assets, right? To purchase assets, to invest in assets. Like, we don't want to promote people to go get a whole life policy and then go buy the car that you wanted.
Yeah, no, that's
right. No, that's not what it's for. Like, that will be, not to say that you can't. Like, if that's what you chose to do.
See, people, it takes time. That's what they don't understand. And the reason why some people don't like whole life, it is a little more expensive. And it takes more time, but it makes sense.
Right.
When it comes to term, you're just paying a flat fee knowing that, okay, God forbid if something happens to me, I'm going to get $100,000. But if you have the whole life, there's more than just paying the money.
Right.
You can get some money in return. You can borrow some. It's just so much more.
So what else can you do in terms of, like, I think you can also set up different payment terms, like we talked about.
However you want to pay.
Right. Like, you can pay over time. You can pay at your own term is a word that you use.
Rather than the bank.
Right.
The bank says you got to pay this amount on this time, whatever.
Right.
Whole life, your turn.
Right. So, like, basically when Charmaine and I set up our policies, like, we can set it up where we pay monthly, we pay quarterly, we pay semi, or we pay annually. So it's just like, now granted, you can say, oh, that's only 4 options, but honestly, you don't even get an option when you go to the bank. No. You don't get an option when you use term. It's like this fixed amount, this is what it is, and there's no other, you know, you don't get any options. So we're all about options. We're all about moving your money smartly. And it's just like, hey, guess what? If you can afford the monthly payment, cool. If you can afford the quarterly payment, cool. It's up to you, right? Like,
it is. It's not like you have to do this when they say do it.
Correct.
You can make it to where you will move on your own terms so you don't end up being in debt or whatever. And that's what a lot of people, funerals, that's just what it is.
Yes.
And that's what we don't want. We see a lot with our people. When somebody dies, the world shuts down. And that's not how it's supposed to be. When somebody dies, there's supposed to be some type of direction to say, boom, 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 boom. Something to replace some type of income that could have possibly been lost.
Right.
And then the people can move forward, and then their lives are not the same, but they can kind of function.
Right.
Our people, we can't function after one person dies.
It's like literally the world shuts down, as you said before. I know before you mentioned, like, you know, a situation that occurred, you know, within your circle where it's just kind of like, it kind of confirmed
what we're
talking about, because as she pointed out, like, this is like, you have to be very patient. And, you know, if you want more information on whole life policies, you can Google, you know, some of the differences between whole life and term. But what we've realized is that with the whole life policy, it matures, I think, after 4 years. Like, that's when it's like, you don't want to borrow from your policy immediately. You want to wait after 4 years, because that's when it matures to the, I think, the maximum amount that you
can. So mature meaning that's when the money grows, right?
Correct.
Until they can get it. Like, they can't just put the money in and 3 months later say, okay, I want to take some money out.
That's pointless. It's stupid.
I'm just saying. So because okay.
Correct. Gotcha. You want to explain it for people, right?
Yeah. So you have to wait. So when you put the money in, mature means like not 6 months, meaning a few years before you can really get the gains or the profits that's really there, right?
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. And another thing that occurred is just like what we realized is just like when people die, the last thing you really want to be doing is going and begging for money to pay for their funeral expenses. So ridiculous. And you can kind of speak to this just with recent, current events, like how it's sad because instead of spending time thinking about this person or spending time mourning or, just going through your own personal emotional states that comes with death, you're spending time trying to gather money. You're spending time trying to figure out how to pay for stuff. You're spending time trying to figure out what to do next. Like you said it, that direction. Like a whole life, there's nothing wrong with getting a term because, yes, are you taking care of your death? But there's ways that you can benefit from that by getting the whole life, and that's more. It's more. It's right?
all about accumulate. Like what we are trying to do is accumulate more, and that's what we didn't understand when it came to insurance policies. That's another way to accumulate and pass down generational wealth. It's not about okay, I'm getting an insurance policy on myself or our children because we're all about the whole death thing. It's about that, okay, with whole life, I can put money in, I can get a 10-year policy, and then when my child graduates high school, they could possibly have some money to go to for college. Right. That's not death, it's whole life. Yes. It helps the whole life. I pay that college money back or that we borrowed from the policy, and then let's just say now they want to start a business. They can take more money out. But as long as we're paying it back, that's the way it goes. You have to pay it back.
Yeah. So like the other thing that we've noticed too with like, again, when you're younger, you eat what you want to eat. You don't really think about your body. You're not thinking about it. Like, oh, you see these people running outside. You're like, what are they running outside for? Like, they look crazy, but it's just like, or they're eating vegetables or they're eating a certain way. And it's just like, another thing we realize with whole life policy, you have to get a physical, right? And if you're in poor health, you don't get good rates. And I didn't know that. Like, I had no idea that your health was tied to a whole life policy. Like, and it makes more sense now because, like, when we're growing up and we're seeing these people, like, taking care of themselves, and you're like, what are you doing? And it's not so much what are you doing, but why?
It's more so like why, and it's like you think it's just for, oh, so I can be healthier and live a little longer. It's like, yes, that is, but guess what? When you add something to that, that's more money.
Yes.
That literally, you can pass down to your children.
Literally, because it's like, I don't know many people that are healthy unless it's like a free accident. Not to say it can't happen, but it's not like people who are super healthy are walking around with high cholesterol, diabetes, all these things. And it's just like, because they also know that maybe they know about whole life policies, but it's, I mean, outside of the benefits of being healthy, just in general, the benefits in being healthy also help with your whole life policy.
It does. It does.
So now, we talked about death. We talked about, some of the things about having that direction. I think we could just lead right into our security, just about how
to protect some of the finances and things like that. Yeah. Speaking of proper protection, securities, I've had literally 2 recent deaths from 2 close people. One had the proper stuff and one didn't. And for the families, I legitimately saw how hard it was. It is tedious to have paperwork and to do these things, but it's so much easier when people know what to do. Right. Because we all know in some cases there's a lot of greed, there's a lot of anger, people fighting for everything. Right. But if you have things specifically written out and set aside, it helps that. It does. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. People are already grieving, and for my things that I've been through, I would love to have a directive for anybody that I would have to be responsible for because I'm already mentally messed up. Right. So you can't think properly in that state. So if somebody already had that blueprint of what they wanted, it makes it so much easier, and nobody can dispute it or fight it or anything. Yes. And so that's why I say when it comes down to these things, it's tedious, but it makes sense to have some type of policy, to have some type of will, to have some type of trust fund, to have somebody oversee it, something, so that when the time happens, people know what to do. And then all that you work for, because I've seen all that people work for, they did not have the proper information, paperwork, whatever, it went down the toilet. And that's heartbreaking. To know, like, just think of us, we've worked for a very long time. I have 3 children, you're about to have some. So to know that if we've worked so hard and they have no clue what to do, it goes completely down the daggone toilet, because they're clueless. But if you tell them, you do this with this, I need this with this, and then you put trust, time on it, you can't, that helps out, and that keeps that budding within that family.
And that's where it's just like, that's what we're talking about, like today, protection and security. And like what she just listed were all different ways that you can secure yourself, secure your death, secure your family, just by setting up things like a trust, a will, a estate, you know, like, again, all those various things are ways that you are securing your what you've built, what you've done. You know, like if you were this hard worker, why would you die? Why is it just like, oh, it's done, it's finished? Especially if you don't have the direction, you know what I mean? But imagine if you had the direction, and then on top of that direction, hey, look, this is what you can do, this is what you have, this is what's set up for you. Like, it's peace of mind too. Like you hear these, you know, you hear people talk about generational wealth, and it's just like, to really, you know, not everybody's born into situations where, hey, your father had a business, your mom had a business, or something was passed down to you, or a trust fund was passed down to you. Why not you start it? You know, like trust fund babies, that could be, you know, like, why isn't that, like, we hear about that more in our community? We should hear about that more in our community. Like, what is a trust fund? Like, and that's something that we're working on. So we're going to give you an update probably, like our next maybe episode?
Because we're almost finished with that.
Setting up our trust funds and just the different forms of security. And there's so many different forms of security, and we're going to give you a few. So it's like, when we talk about security, we're talking about digital security and physical security, right? So when we say physical security, we're saying safes.
That's something like, you know, say you put in your house is a lockbox or something like that.
Where you can just put your passport, your credit cards that you're not using, your children's birth certificates, just like things that could get damaged in the event of something that you can't control. Weather,
flood,
or death. Flood, you know, like, you want to protect yourself. And then on top of that, with the safe, you can also have a will or a estate. You can have a trust fund. And those are things that are kind
of, I mean, you have crypto where you can have ledgers in there. It's so many things you can put with inside the safe.
Correct.
That is needed, that you don't want to put in a bank. Because some people put security boxes. I'm not for the security boxes in the bank. That's just me personally. But that's just another way. If you don't want to put something in the bank, you can have something in your house.
Because a lot of times we find that in our community, people don't trust banks, right? And rightfully so, right? But we still have to use banks. And the thing is that you don't have to keep your assets in the bank. If you want to truly, if you don't trust the bank, then keep the assets in your house. Keep the assets wherever you choose to keep them. But it's just like, if you're going to do that, don't put your money in the mattress. No. We're not doing that anymore, people. Grandma's money's not going underneath the mattress. It's not. Like, we want to put our money.
The chinches are eating them up. The bed bugs are eating them up. Come on now, guys. We're not putting money in the mattress, in the shoe boxes, anything. Because, I mean, money's dry. Like, let's be 100% real. Like, I don't care who we talking to right now. Cash. Because cash is about to be very valuable. The dope boys, the strippers, the waitresses, all of that. Like, if you have money, put it somewhere else, because you can stack it all day. It's not doing anything being there stacked. And that's another reason when it comes to security and protection and what we're doing, it still helps it grow a little bit.
Correct. So she also mentioned, like, with crypto, right? So as you know from our last episode, we're into crypto. And other ways that you can protect yourself with crypto are with ledgers. So ledgers are basically, the best way I can describe it, it looks like a jump drive, right? Literally, it's not a jump drive, but it acts in in the sense of you can transfer small or large amounts of crypto to this little, like, it looks like a jump drive, and it protects yourself in the sense of, hey, guess what? If that, site that you're keeping your crypto on goes out of business, if it's hacked, if there's like malware, if there's anything that happens to your computer, your laptop, whatever you're storing or keeping these assets, it protects you in the sense of something that, hey, I can have this, I physically hold it, I can back it up, and I can take it with me wherever I go. So if you need to escape, take your ledger with you, right?
You can't bring your silver bars and your gold bars in your daggone suitcase, but you can take this little ledger and call it a day. And it's easier. I mean, honestly, it really is easier. I mean, for people who have, like, I don't know people's financial situations, but I have heard that people who have had gold bars, silver bars, I mean, legitimately, they realized that it was harder for them to move from state to state or country because, taxes, and they're going through everything, and then they're losing some because they're saying, okay, this is worth $5,000, but it's worth $10,000, but you can't argue with that because that's just what it is. So when you're able to be in control, that's basically what all of this is about, honestly.
Right, yeah.
Being in control. It's a lot more responsibility, but at least you know that if I lose $5,000, it's because of you.
Right.
It's not because of the bank, or it was a oops, my bad, or I'm trying to get over it. It's something that you did something wrong, or or right, or whatever.
Right. And it's just like, what we also think is that in order to be, you want to be responsible for your information, right? So you want to protect yourself and have security set up so that you don't lose your assets or lose something that is valuable to you. So in those safes, like we referencing back to the safes, like, it's not just money that you can put in there. It's anything that's of value to you. Yeah.
But anything that you would be heartbroken if you lost. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, I mean, everybody's value is different. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right. Exactly.
It's not, like you said, it's not all monetary. It's not all money.
No.
It's, me, I am a picture person.
Yes.
And it's certain pictures for me that if I lost,
oh my God,
I don't give a damn how much money it is. It would never bring it back.
Right.
So protection, I would want to put it in a safe place.
Right, right.
That's just how I
like
look
this
at
new generation, everything's on the cloud. So guess what? If you back your stuff up from the cloud to a jump drive, you back your stuff up that's sitting on your Shutterfly account or wherever you're storing your pictures, you can still keep this stuff so that if that account got shut down, hey, guess what? I have this jump drive that's in my safe, and I won't ever lose these photos.
Exactly.
We've talked about, things that you can, we've talked about some digital and we've talked about some physical things, but another form of digital security protection that you can do is through your email, right? A lot of times we use services like Yahoo and Gmail, which are, great for, if you want to sign up for this reward at the grocery store. But honestly, when something like that, like if you're talking about protecting yourself and securing your assets or things that are valuable to you, we are now using what's called Proton Mail. So Proton Mail is a Swiss-backed company that provides an encrypted service, and we do pay for it, right? Because what we found is that when you're paying for something and it comes to protecting yourself, usually they're providing a little bit more level of protection than something that's free, like Yahoo and Google, Gmail. And again, nothing wrong with using those, but it's just like if we're talking about really truly protecting yourself and your finances,
you don't want the world to know.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I use the Gmail now for little shopping or social media stuff that goes through promotions. But when it comes down to like anything that has to do with your hardcore finances, your social security, anything, that's where the Proton Mail comes in. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So like we, and a lot of times we pay for other stuff. So it's just like we've said it before in our last episode, like sometimes you have to pay for services, you gotta
pay to play.
You got to pay to play. And it's just like, I'd rather know that our stuff is secure and our information is secure than someone that can hack into our Yahoo or Gmail accounts and, now you're breached and all your information is out there and you're trying to fix your credit or fix some situation because something got hacked. Absolutely. Right? So to sum it up, like, we're talking about digital and physical not assets. Securities, right? Yeah. We love assets.
Yes, and it's more so about, and we're basically saying be more proactive to it than reactive, meaning it is a little frustrating to start all of these things up and get it situated, but it's so much better to get it out the way than you having to be reactive to it, and now you're having to change everything, clean everything, fix everything, then start over.
Yes.
That's just us being proactive. It kind of saves us from some of these things. You know, rather us spend 10 minutes to now, when we're being proactive 10 minutes rather than now reactive an hour and 10 minutes, because that's what it's going to take you, plus more when they're getting into your bank accounts. They have that social security number.
Exactly. You're done.
Proton Mail takes how long to set up?
Maybe
not even 10 minutes.
No.
That's what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying? So we think that it makes more sense we're focusing proactive. Thank you. I love this so much.
Yes.
Proactive instead of reactive.
Yes.
Start it, finish it, we're done.
So we know you learned a lot today, right? Like we've learned a lot throughout this process, but I think, to sum it up, is just like, we just want you to protect yourself and just keep your stuff that's valuable as safe as possible, and not to rely on somebody else, not to have that direction, as you mentioned. What are some other things that, takeaways for the...
Pretty much where we have gotten in our journey, we know for a fact we need digital and physical. That will help.
Yes.
We are now going on to our next step as far as our trust, because we're still dabbling with that.
Right.
We have more than one security, more than one layer of protection. There's never anything wrong with having more than one. So it seems like we have a lot going on, but for us, we want to be protected every way.
Yes.
So I guess the next time we speak to them, we will have some information about trust, right?
Yes.
So we're going to hit y'all with some trust information next.
We're going to set up our trust. We're going to let you know how that process went. We're going to let you know like what we learned from it, just because as we realized, we learned some things from the whole life policy. I think that Nat likes to visit us during our episodes.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
For the shit. It's cool.
We've learned, and it's just like, that's why we're here for. We're here to just kind of tell you our story, and maybe, you can learn some things from us and go do your own research, right?
Absolutely. And sorry that it might be so fast, but we kind of, as soon as we learn it, we're trying to give it to you all as fresh as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So if we seem a little over the place, but we're trying to give it to you fresh.
Yep.
But other than that, we're going to keep bringing it out. As soon as we get it, we're giving it to y'all. And y'all just going to have to bear with us when it comes to the proper terminology and all that. But we're going to get it right, because so far we right.
Right.
Y'all, I'm out.
Peace. And that's it.